Hey everyone, welcome back to another BS Rambles. This is the show that I'm going to be doing in addition to the two stocked episodes that are up on my channel as well. Those videos are kind of like a group playing Smash deal. I try to make it like 30% about Smash, 70% about our friends hanging out, having fun, drinking beer. Last time I made them like a 30 pack of Pizza Pops. My plan originally, I was like, it's always going to be pizza and beer because I got to keep these guys coming over, right? But it starts getting expensive because I don't want to just buy them like the worst stuff possible. So this week I bought another case of beer, which I mean, you buy six guys beer, you're spending at least $30 if you're going to be chintzy, which I was. And then you buy them pizza too to feed those six guys pizza. And ordering in's not an option because that'll be $60. So I have to buy like 7 frozen pizzas because they'll each eat one, including myself. So we're a bunch of fatties, and yeah, it gets so costly so fast. So I did what I used to do when I was a broke student, and this is actually the best caloric value for per dollar for anyone, I think, is Pizza Pops. It's amazing. Each one of those pockets has 250 calories in it. If you guys don't know what the hell a calorie is, like me, I'll tell you that an average person needs about like 1,500 to 2,000 in a day. If someone's eating 3,000, that person's either like a hardcore weightlifter or a bit of a fat ass, probably on a path to be in a wheelchair when they're 50. Each individual pizza pocket is 250 calories. So 2 pizza pockets, 500 calories. If you were to eat 6 Pizza Pops, which is easy to do and maybe costs $5 total, that's a day's worth of food right there. Like if I was homeless, I would live off Pizza Pops. I would just bake them on the sidewalk. I digress though. I wanted to tell you guys about what this is going to be about, which I feel like you may have already gotten a feel for. And if it's annoying you already, then you should probably just quit because it's just going to be a lot more of this. I basically am just going to talk over top of Heroes gameplay. It's not necessarily going to be about the gameplay for the most part. I'll just be blabbing about other things, and then occasionally I'll address the gameplay. But for the most part, I'm a pretty average player, and I just figure I'll throw something up on the screen for people on YouTube to look at so you know where to find my video, and eventually, hopefully, I'll start posting these as podcasts. But for now, this is the only platform that these are going to be on. We're just coming off of May long weekend. I think it's the 23rd today. So yeah, I had yesterday off. It was Monday, which kicked ass. I played a shitload of Heroes over the weekend, much to my girlfriend's dismay. But she's a pretty good sport about my being addicted to video games, which is nice. I went longboarding quite a bit. So my little brother, he was working for a longboarding company for a little while. So he's got all these longboards now. So he offered me to try one of these 5. So we went longboarding, and we parked at the top of this huge hill, and the route that I had chosen was just like a steady decline about 7 kilometers all the way back to my place. And then I was just going to park my car at the bottom, and then we drive back up and get our cars after, so you don't have to worry about going uphill ever. And holy shit, dude, longboards ever need brakes. That is one of the scariest, most dangerous sports I've ever partaken in. Once you get going fast, your only option is to fall. It's like either you continue to get going faster and faster to fall harder, or you just fall sooner. So as soon as you start getting out of control, your best option is to just take the spill, because otherwise you'll careen over a roadway or something and like get going fast enough that you'll die. I really wish someone would invent just like a foot pedal on the side or something to drag on the ground. I even looked up, I was like, there's got to be something that I'm missing here. There's no way this sport is just this dangerous. So I looked up online, and people are just they're like, you can either turn, you can drag your foot, which is not recommended at high speeds because you have to go one-footed to do that. Or they said you could do power slides, which is basically like drifting on a longboard, which just looked like the hardest shit ever to me. But there's this one section that we're going down where it's got hard curbs on either side. This is a walking path. So you could only turn for about 6 feet width during that place. So there's not even enough room to go sideways on the hill. You literally just have to go down the hill. And I wiped out hard like 3 or 4 times. So I've got cuts all over my legs and all over my shins. because we did that same route twice. It's so fun, but it's just so deadly. And I'm not very good, and neither is my brother. I have some crossover because I snowboard quite a bit, so I've got that going for me. But I mean, I don't understand how, if you're a longboarder, you just don't have all these broken bones. I mean, I think they actually do. It's kind of like BMXers and other skateboarders, right? Like, you just, part of doing those sports is that it's just dangerous as hell. That's why you don't see a lot of people past their teenage years doing it. One thing I learned that I thought was fucking hilarious. If you don't know, the way you're supposed to ride a longboard is you have your front foot kind of over the wheels at the front. So my left foot's my lead foot, so I put that forward over the wheels of the front, and then I'm supposed to push with my right foot. But that doesn't feel comfortable to me, so what I do is I have my right foot on the back, and I push with my front foot. And I found out what that's called today. It's called going Mongo, which I just like is maybe the best term I've ever heard in my life. Like, leave it to longboarders to come up with the funniest name for pushing incorrectly. Going Mongo, which is exactly what I look like when I'm doing it, right? Just this like big fucking doofus pushing incorrectly, looking like an oaf, going Mongo. So yeah, Collin told me that because he goes Mongo also. A couple of Mongoloids. Speaking of Collin, so he's on this week's episode of Two Stocked, and he was hilarious. He was rusty, but so mad about being rusty. Like, he always fancies himself the best Smash player, which I think we all do. I think the people who can make honest claims to it, I mean, it's pretty competitive between Dan, Collin, Aaron, and myself. I think I'm the best, obviously. You guys have seen us play, so you probably think I'm the best too. Aaron probably thinks he's the best, and he can make a pretty honest claim for it. Dan is in there competitively, and Collin's definitely in there competitively also, but I think Aaron and I know that we're kind of the 1 and 2. Aaron, of course, being 2. Because he chokes under pressure because he's a little bitch, and he's also the only one that watches these videos, so it doesn't matter too much that I'm talking behind his back, because I'll be saying it right in his ear when he watches this. So I wanted to talk about how lazy Collin is beyond those. If you want to see the Two Stocked episode, it's pretty funny. You see a couple of Collin's moments of spazzing out. There were so many more. I was going to make the whole episode just a montage of his like getting mad when he gets smashed out the map. But there just wouldn't be enough room for the other stuff. I didn't want to make it super long, and I didn't want to make it super short and just those. Maybe in the future I'll start doing 2, but for now I'm too lazy to do that. What was I going to say? Oh, so he's been marketing for this, along with working for that longboard store. He's been running the Instagram account of this sunglasses company. And I'm like trying to support him, right? I know that's like a new startup company, and he's marketing for it. So they're basing his performance heavily off of how this company does. So I offered to buy a pair of these sunglasses, like $100 sunglasses, right? I don't need $100 sunglasses. I don't really even have the money for $100 sunglasses. I was like, you know what? My little brother's marketing for them. I'll support what he's doing. I'll pick up some of these sunglasses. But he's in the States at the time. This is when he was still in Oregon. And they don't ship to Canada. So what I told him, I was like, well, why don't you buy them? And then I'll pay you back, and I'll pay you for shipping as well. Just buy them for me and mail them to me. And I'll foot all the cost of that. You just have to do it. And then that's one more sale in the books for his company, right? And I think our whole family was down to do that. I know my girlfriend was planning on doing that too. And he kept on putting it off. And I know it's just because he's too lazy to do it. And then eventually he's like, okay, fine. Well, I'm meeting with them tonight, and I'll order you your sunglasses. And I was like, okay, perfect. And he comes back to me, and he tells me that instead of ordering me the sunglasses, he's convinced the owner of the company to start shipping sunglasses to Canada and told me to do it myself. That's how lazy he is, and how much of an evil genius this kid is also. He would rather, instead of one trip to the post office and maybe 10, 15 clicks online, he would rather sit down with this person and just convince them to ship to Canada. Literally, he's saying like, oh, we got all these customers in Canada. It's literally like me and his family members being like, hey, will you buy some? Colin's like, there's major demand in the Canadian market for it. I'm getting hit up like every day. It's like mom calling, being like, how are things going, Collin? And he's just like, oh man, these people need glasses in Canada. And the person apparently ate it up. I think that they're not actually shipping to Canada. And this all happened, by the way, like a month and a half ago. I still have no glasses, and they don't ship to Canada, and he has not made any effort to try to get me glasses. So yeah, that's a taste of Collin. You'll get a little more of him in that Two Stocked episode too. I'm so glad he's back though. It's awesome. More to this Maylong stuff though. I'm in southern Alberta of Canada, right? Everyone thinks Canada's so cold, and goddamn is it ever hot right now. It's 31 degrees Celsius outside. For all you Americans out there, I think that's about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, which to some of you probably doesn't sound like anything, but oh god, that messes me up. I slept last night, I shit you not, I slept with a wet towel as my blanket because I could not sleep in that type of heat. It's so freaking hot. I had like a coconut oil sitting on my counter, which is like typically it's solid and white. It had become a clear white or clear see-through liquid on my counter by the morning. It was just, it gets messed up. I've got a west-facing apartment too, so during the afternoon this place just gets baked. I have blackout curtains, I got tint on the windows, I've done everything to try to cool this place off. Right now I'm sitting in my underwear just like sweating my balls off, and it is only May right now. Our ski hills closed on Monday, yesterday, and today I'm sitting in my underwear sweating my ass off. So I like some things to do with summer, but sleeping is horrific in the summertime in Canada. I absolutely hate it. Speaking of Collin too, you guys can thank him for he gave me the suggestion that I should cut out all the death timers in my games that I play. If I post it, I'm going to cut out the death timer. And at first when he said that, I was like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, I don't really want to, like, kind of the whole point of this thing was that it was so easy, right? I just throw up this gameplay in the background, I do the voiceover behind it, and that was going to be it. But I found a solution is that I would just post a game where I didn't die a single time. But if this does go longer, I'll be playing a second game after this one. If I still have, I've got like a little set list of things that I want to talk about during these podcasts. So if it goes a little longer, then I'll continue into the next game where I died like 9-10 times, and then I'll have to edit those ones out if I do end up going a little longer. I think this game's about to end, so I probably will. Speaking of the game, while I'm at it, this new character, Cassia, just seems like the most OP thing ever. Like, she's pretty tanky. I don't know how many people listening give a shit about heroes, but I give a shit about heroes, so talk about it. You see what's happening right now? That I'm hitting that tower, and it's damaging them for almost 300 damage a hit. That's a level 1 talent that does that on an extremely short cooldown. Like, that's got to be the most overpowered talent in the entire game. Like, the more I play this hero, the more she just felt like it's kind of like the Sonya thing that I was talking about in my other BS rambles, where like, this character is just honestly kind of bullshit. Like, I don't know, my brother always jokes that I'm like the idiot, like the blind guy that's predicting or the parrot that's predicting the Super Bowl. Like, I'm just like dumb luck managing to guess the meta beforehand, because I always like do these builds that he thinks is retarded but I say is awesome. And I do pretty well with them. And then like 2 months later, you'll see the pros in Korea. It'll go meta there, right? Just like pure dumb luck. So I feel like Cassia is going to be that. Like, all of a sudden, Sonya is getting banned now in Gold League. Whenever I see it get banned, my ego's so big. I'm like, oh yeah, they must have seen me play Sonya. One more thing I learned from the hot weather is that the best way to get big calves is to just be fat. You see all these people working out, and everyone always says like the hardest place in your body is to build muscle. It's like, you know what? Actually, it's the easiest place to build muscle. It's just hard when you're a fit person exercising for some reason. Go to the fattest person you know, and they will also be the person with the biggest calves of anyone that you know. It's honestly like it's a direct relationship. Take it from someone who has put on about 40 pounds in the past 2 years. My calves have grown inversely to my fitness level. Like, as my fitness level decreases, my calf strength goes up exponentially. So I figure, like, I think the best way to do it, if you want to really build your calves and you're committed to working out, here's what you do. You take 2 years off. And that's what I'm doing right now. I was committed to working out for a while. I'm taking 2 years off to build my calves. So I'm just going to get as fat as I can I used to be about 190. Now I'm 230 pounds. And my calves have never looked better. I used to work out my calves all the time. Didn't do shit. Now I'm just a fat loaf sitting behind a desk 40 hours a week. Guess what? My calves are jade. I've got a fucking vein sticking out of them. I've got droopy man tits, a fat, blubbery stomach that ripples when I hit it. But my calves are fucking jade right now. Speaking of jade calves and fat people in shorts, it is hiking season in Canada. I live in Calgary. So right by Calgary is Canmore, and everyone's probably heard of Banff. If you haven't heard of Banff, then you've probably been living under a rock, because that's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's pretty well renowned. So people in Calgary like to go hiking very often, but there's also people don't really respect the mountain wilderness out here as much. Like when you think of yourself like walking through the African savannah, I'm like, okay, I would maybe be able to walk 1 kilometer before something jacked me, like something's going to kill me out there. But the Rockies have pretty much the same shit. Like we've got, as far as predators go, we've got bears, both grizzly and brown bears. We've got cougars. We've got lynx, which a lynx will never mess with you, but still. We've got coyotes, which will never mess with you, but still. And we've got wolves. And this year, they had to take out a couple of the wolves because there's this little tiny ski hill outside of Banff called Norquay, and these wolves were chasing people there. Some employee was riding his snowmobile, and a couple of wolves just took chase to him. And they're like, we're not sure what the wolves wanted, or if it was if they were just curious. They're like, I'm pretty sure if wolves are chasing you, they're not just trying to see what's up, like those things. Like if that guy wasn't on a snowmobile, even if they were curious, they would have gone up curiously, been like, what is this thing? Oh, it's meat. They would have just eaten that person. And it's hilarious. There's this. So yeah, people just don't respect the Rockies. Did I mention cougars? Cougars have the highest hunt accuracy of any animal. I think African wild dogs might have them beaten, but it's something like 80%. Like if a cougar decides to kill something, 80% of the time it kills them. Compare that to a more average animal. Wolves, I believe, is 12%. So a wolf will only get their kill 12% of the time, whereas a cougar will get it 80% of the time. We used to have a cougar on our property. We have a property up on Vancouver Island, and we live on the top of this bank next to the ocean, and there's a 100-foot bank that drops down to the beach, and you can't get down it. It's like we have like these crazy ladder trails to try to get down this cliff. But a cougar used to live on that cliff. It was like a 12-foot cougar, and that thing traumatized my childhood. I remember being there when we first saw the cougar. We got a call from my aunt who lived up the street. They're like, just so you know, we saw a cougar on our property last night that was 12 feet long. A couple weeks later, the thing is out in their backyard, and their dog, this little dog called Wallace, who's probably like a 30-pound dog, but like a country dog for 30 pounds, So it's not like you see a dog in the city, it's like a duck tolling retriever or something. Like 30-pound dog is usually a puss. But this thing lived in the Canadian rainforest, basically, right? Its entire life. You can give thanks for that skip to Collin. Otherwise, you guys would have been watching at Death Timer. Anyways, yeah, so rough and tumble dog, right? So this thing faces down this cougar. They're out in the backyard. This dog's barking at it. My 85-year-old great aunt goes out there to try to rescue her dog. So she's out there, grabs this dog by the collar, who's now 10 feet away from a cougar, who's just staring at it, just kind of like deciding what it wants to do. Like, is it like, should I leave this dog alone? Like, it's barking at me. Now there's a lady there. He's basically just contemplating, like, is it worth my time to kill these two? And he did decide not to kill those two, thankfully. So she got the dog back inside. The cougar kind of turned, saunters back into the woods. Thank God. Anyways, a week after that, my uncle sees it on the property. He lives with my great aunt on the same property. He sees the thing right away, shoots it. It's on private property, right? We're allowed to shoot it. If anyone's an animal lover, well, maybe you can get eaten by a cougar someday, and we'll see how much you love animals after that. Anyways, you got a bunch of little kids running around on this property. You don't want a fucking 12-foot cougar that has clearly shown no regard for human presence, right? Like, there's no fear there. It was just looking at them like, you know what, I could probably just eat a rabbit easier than I could eat you two. And it just moved on. So he shoots the thing and he keeps the paw. And this paw was huge. It's hard to put to scale how big these things are. Like, this paw was as big as my hand is now, but it's got these claws that are like 1.5 inches long and as sharp as razors. It was absolutely unbelievable. I remember my brother fed me this stat because he's a fucking asshole. He told me that when you're in the woods, 80% of the time, a cougar is watching you and you can't see it. He's like, any time that you're in the woods. Yeah, so 80% of the time. So I was a kid, traumatized in the woods. I wouldn't even go past the driveway when I was younger out at this property because I was so petrified of getting eaten by a cougar. Anyways, the reason I brought up all this animal bullshit is because there was a story that was run in the Calgary Herald, our local newspaper, and it was actually run by a friend of mine's girlfriend. So the story goes, these people are hiking. It's this, I think it was a couple girls, a guy, and their dog. They're hiking in Banff. This bear sees them and starts following/chasing them. It chases these people for 25 minutes. 25 minutes it chased them for. Can you imagine that? These people are recounting the story. They're saying like they were sure that they're going to die. They're absolutely traumatized. They're like, this was one of like the worst experiences of my life. They're talking about it the day after. They're like, it's all I can think about still. I'm so petrified. So they had to release their dog because they're like, okay, this bear's going to eat us. This dog's barking at it nonstop and like pulling us towards the bear. So they have to let go of their dog. Can you imagine mentally what that would do to you? Just being like, okay, it's either like we all get eaten or just my dog gets eaten. So they release the dog. The dog runs off into the woods. The bear chases it. And that's the danger of dogs in the woods, by the way. They see a bear, they will chase it. And then as soon as they get close to the bear, they realize, oh, fuck, it's a bear. I can't handle a bear. So they'll come running back to you with a bear in full chase, ready for a meal, right? So that's the danger with dogs. Like if your dog ever barks and goes running after something, just be aware of the fact that it may come back with a bear in tow. So that's exactly what happened to these people. Their dog runs off into the woods, comes back because dogs are faster than bears for the most part. Like, I mean, I'm sure some dogs get eaten by bears, but this guy doesn't, like most dogs. Comes running back with the bear in tow. These people manage to escape to an old restaurant that's closed down because they're near a ski hill. So they contemplate breaking in, but apparently they just go into the parking garage. They manage to get cell phone reception, get a hold of some park rangers. And the park rangers come, and they like bring their tranq guns and whatnot, and they walk in there, and by then the bear's kind of moved on. Apparently, they say it's safe for you now to return to the parking lot because they're just up in the ski hills parking area, right? So they're not at their parking lot yet. So they walk back to there. They see the bear again following them. They finally get to their car, drive home. They tell this story. This story gets run in the Calgary Herald the next day. And it literally says hikers get... So I read the initial news report where it's these people recounting their tale, right? That I just told you. So that was from their perspective. Now, here's what the Calgary Herald, our main newspaper, runs. They say, yes, there was an encounter with this large female brown bear, but don't worry, she's friendly. No one was in danger at any point during this time. They said apparently this bear has a long history of being very curious about people, and that this is really nothing to be worried about because this bear has never done anything to a person before. I was like, are you kidding me? Did you did our main media outlet just run a story telling us that a grizzly bear that chased people for 25 minutes, chased their dog, made them think that they're gonna die because they probably would have. Like you think if they just stood there, the bear would have come up and just like sniffed their hand and been like, yeah, I've always wondered what a person smells like. I was just so curious about you guys. Like, no. It was going to fucking eat them. What are predators curious about? I hate when people say that these animals are just curious. They're not curious. They're curious. They are curious, but they're not curious in the way you or I are curious. Like, I wonder what its fur feels like. They're curious about the only thing that an animal that is a predator ever is curious about. And that's, can I eat this thing? right? Like the same as sharks, except sharks, instead of like walking up and smelling you, they just take a chunk out of your surfboard, right? And that's how they realize that it's not food. They take a chunk out. The same way that this bear would have probably just like bit their face off and then been like, oh no, this people mostly like just like sinewy because they're out hiking. Unless they're one of the jacked calf fatties that I was telling you about before. Like myself, like I would be a feast for a bear. That thing would probably eat me for a week. What else did I want to talk to you guys about? I'm done talking about bears, don't worry. If anyone does that, just like torture for me to blab about bears forever. And it is that story that got run was run by a buddy of mine's girlfriend. And I commented on the Facebook being like, because we're friends on Facebook, right? So I see the author. I know the author personally of this article. I was like, this seems like a dangerous animal that you're like literally calling friendly right now. Because people just want to anthropomorphize that stuff, right? Like, it's like, it's a teddy bear. Like, I only know 2 things about grizzly bears. 1, that they look soft. And 2, that this one has never had a negative encounter with a person. They've never hurt anyone before. It just sounds like someone who's like a victim of domestic abuse. Like, oh no, he's really friendly. He's never once hit me before. Like, that bear's gonna eat one person and then get put down, and they'll be like, oh man, like there's no way to know because he was always so friendly before. He would just want to chase people. He never wanted to eat them. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, I went to a restaurant over the weekend. I feel like if you like you watch like Gordon Ramsay or like Chef Table, they all talk about their ingredients and stuff, right? I am by no means like a foodie or anything like that, and I think people that claim to be foodies are kind of douchebags. Hopefully, a couple of my friends that claim to be foodies are listening to this and realize that they are douchebags and that I think they're douchebags, even though they've already realized that because I say it to them all the time. Like, if you refer to yourself as a foodie, like, you're just basically being like, I have discerning taste. It's like that South Park episode Nailed It. How often does South Park nail it, by the way? When they did the Yelp reviewer and then Cartman starts calling himself a food critic. He has this one line when someone's like, the guy's like, you gave my family restaurant 1 star. He's like, I had to give them 1 star. He's like, you should have seen what it did to my stomach. He's like, the next day, my poo was completely salad. It's like being raped from the inside. That was maybe like one of my favorite jokes from South Park, and I'm horribly sorry for butchering it. But if you haven't seen it, you probably don't watch South Park anyways. I just thought it was so funny as a fellow fat ass with Cartman that has diarrhea more than a solid poo, to hear a solid poo being referred to as being raped from the inside is so funny. Anyways, what I was going to say about restaurants is, like, if you serve processed cheese on a burger or on anything at a restaurant, I feel like you're just basically sending a message to anyone that you don't really give a fuck about your food. You're like, yeah, like, just so you know, here's a piece of not cheese, and by the way, we cut corners here wherever possible. If there's a corner we can cut, we've cut it, just so you know. What else? Oh, I've talked a lot about fat people this podcast, and I've talked about myself being fat, but particularly more so than any other part of my body, I've got a kind of a fat ass. And the other day, so I'm on a rec league basketball team with a bunch of other wannabe athletes, and it was starting to get a little bit chippy. Just like, I mean, like it does, right? Like, it's basketball. It's a bit of a physical game. A lot of people are kind of just learning the ropes of the game, and myself included. So people don't know what's a foul. So a lot of these games tend to go a little bit south. But this particular one, there's this girl on the other team who's by far their best player, which happens in rec league, right? Like, anyone that actually plays basketball, girl or guy, is going to be the LeBron James of rec league, you know? Like, if you've ever actually played an organized sport before, and then you go to rec league to play with a bunch of people who are just there to try to, like, run around and get their heart rate up so that they don't lose bone density and break a hip when they fall walking to shovel their driveway, you're going to be the best one there, right? These 2 chicks on the other team start making fun of my ass. Like, I hear them. So I heard them initially. I go up for a layup, and she makes some comment about, like, wondering how much I paid for my ass, like as if it was fake. And they started calling me a Kardashian, but they didn't realize the whole time that I could hear them. Or maybe they did and they're just trying to be assholes, but I just thought that was so funny. I sat down on the bench with my team and I was like, those chicks are making fun of my ass, and everyone, like, there's no mercy. Everyone on my team just bursts out laughing. They just thought it was the funniest thing ever. I thought it was kind of like, imagine if you flipped it and there was like a slightly overweight chick on the other team and I just started like making fun of her fat ass. That would have been so ruthless. And this chick making fun of my ass was pretty fat too. And I debated, like, because she by the end, she was like openly mocking my ass, being like, where'd you get that ass? My comeback was going to be at the gym. It's $20 a week or $20 a month for a membership. You should check it out. But that would have just been like so savage and for like way over the top. Because it's like, you can make fun of a guy's ass and it is pretty funny. Like, even I, while they were doing it, thought that it was pretty funny. But it was just like too familiar, you know? Like, it was the fact like that I don't know you and you feel like it's okay to just like make fun of me. That's what kind of pissed me off about these girls. Yeah, and things digressed quickly after that. I stuffed the shit out of that girl later on because I'm not really good enough to stuff the guy. So every once in a while, I'll put a monster slam down on one of the girls on the other team. So I did that to this girl. That was my revenge. She went up for a layup, and I just went up way above her and just slapped the ball out of bounds. We're playing in like a junior high school gym, so the ball just rails against the wall and bounces back into the middle of the court. Everyone's just looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Why would you do that? It felt good. It felt good. I'm not going to lie. You kind of got to do that. Like, she was one of their best players, like I said. So if you're not going to defend her, especially that game was like a 6-point game. Not that it fucking matters. We are in rec league. To give you an idea how bad we are, we have never even finished in the top half. So they give everyone a chance to do playoffs, but they do a bottom bracket for the lower half of people and an upper bracket for the upper half of people. I've been on this team for like 4 years, which equates to about 12 seasons. And we have never once finished in the upper half. And by the way, if you're still paying attention to this game, you're watching the slowest death of a game of all time. Like, now we're at 22%. I'm sure that this team is about to just walk in and win it. This team was winning this entire game. Like, this is a 23-minute game that you guys just watched. There was no point in this game where my team was really winning at all. You notice by all the hard cuts I did, I'm pretty sure I died like 7 freaking times in this game. I remember looking at, I think I get MVP at the end of this game. And there was like a split second where I was like, man, it's impossible to carry them. I'm in elo hell. And then I looked at my deaths and realized that I had just been like dying nonstop this game. I was like, hey, like, yes, I got MVP, but like, I also was only alive for like 2/3 of this game. The other third, my team was playing by themselves. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, I just died to minions there. Not that we would have clutched out the game had I not died to minions. Oh, look at that score, though. Yeah, 7 deaths. 7 deaths. Every time I look at the score, I just look at, like, I'm only looking for what's highlighted for me. Anyways, I'm going to throw the social media stuff up at the end here. And the best way to keep up with me is to follow the Instagram account. The Twitter, I post when the videos go out. They go on Twitter also, so that's a good way to go. But for the most part, if you want to know when I'm streaming, especially the 2-stocked episode, I feel like my streaming heroes is like anyone else streaming heroes. You know, there's nothing special about that. But the 2-stocked episodes, I really think that we've got something good with the stream there. So if you guys want to tune in and watch the stream, I think that's where 2-stocked lives, not on the highlight videos that I make afterwards. I think we're really a channel that belongs on Twitch. I wish I could do it more often, but I have trouble dragging these guys by the ear to come over once a week. It's just tough organizing a bunch of adults, you know? Not that we're like have our shit together at all, but everyone's got different schedules. Anyways, if anyone actually stuck out this 35 minutes of me blabbing, you deserve some kind of a medal or something. So thank you for listening. And I hope that anyone that is listening tunes in for the Twitch on 2-stocked. Like, comment, subscribe on this video. Tell me how fucking annoying I am. I know it's brutal. Hoping these are going to get better and better. Yeah, everyone have a great week. Take care.